life is so different.
Yeah.
You know,
I used to, in the beginning, always feel guilty anytime I would do something that would either like make me happy or bring me joy or take me out of it for a little bit, you know, because it's like, wait, I'm not supposed to feel this way, you know, so I would always have that guilt.
There are a few things in life, I think, that it doesn't matter how old you are, but when you do them, it takes you right back. One of those things for me is when you are at a playground and you find a swing set and you kind of sit on a swing. It takes you back to being a kid and feeling that freedom and feeling the wind and all of those things. It's just one of those moments that I don't think it matters how old you are, but it makes you feel young again. Sometimes that is such an emotion that you can just take for granted. And in the story that I share with Crystal and Austin, it was an experience that it took a while for Austin to be able to have because he's in a wheelchair. And most playgrounds don't have platform wheelchair swings. And when Crystal found one, she wanted to bring that home. She wanted to have that experience for Austin as often as he could. And it was one of our most amazing yeses. Welcome to A Place of Yes, a podcast about how I moved through my darkest hour. And for me, that was in channeling my grief into good. Welcome to the show. But first, it's time for our review of the week. If you're looking for a podcast that will invariably reduce you to tears, but leave you feeling so good about the world, this is that podcast. I can't wait to hear the next story, and the next one after that, and the next one after that. I love that it brought people to tears, but also, more importantly, focused on the joy and the happiness and all that is channeling grief for good. Hi, Crystal.
Hi.
I am so happy to see you. It has been, how many years do you think?
Oh my gosh, a long time. I feel like the last time I saw you...
Was it at Starbucks when we met at Starbucks? Was that the last time?
Yeah, I think so. I do remember that. I don't know what year it was.
No,
though.
I have no, I mean, I don't know if it is 4 years ago or 10 years ago. I really have no idea.
I don't either.
The passage of time, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. So can you tell me a little bit about you and Austin and just your family and give me a little background?
Yeah, of course. Gosh, I had Austin when I was 25 back in 2004. He was just my world. You know, he was born with a lot of health issues, which led into a lot of special care, but I was ready for it.
Did you know?
I did.
Okay.
Yes. I found out via amniocentesis that he had an abnormal chromosome. He had ring 18.
Okay.
Which is very, very rare. And the doctors really didn't know how he was going to develop. So with that, we had cerebral palsy and holioprosencephaly, which is missing the forebrain, vision impairments. Just as time went on, a lot of other things developed that we found, but it was all good.
No, what a smile he had.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, he had the best smile and the best sense of humor. You could definitely read his facial expressions.
I used to always say that too, because people would sometimes be like, well, how do you know what Jake is thinking? I'm like, he makes it very, very clear. Mm-hmm. You know, he would have like a side eye that he could give you when he did not like what you were feeding him or if you woke him up or whatever the thing was. I mean, he could give you a look.
Yeah.
But that on the other side, though, that look that was the happy look, it could just melt you instantly.
Oh, for sure.
So let's go back to when you first applied to Jake's Help from Heaven. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah. I first applied, I think, pretty early of 2016. He went to Langen at the Center for Disability Services, and he just loved swinging. I would always get a note home every day. You know, Austin was on the playground. He really loves the swing, you know. So I ended up getting him kind of like a hammock swing for inside the house, and we would put a little tumble form seat in it, and he would swing, you know, in the door frame, and he would just love it. And finally I was like, no, he needs something for outside, you know, because there's not a lot of things he could really do outside being in the wheelchair and stuff. And just regular playgrounds didn't have the equipment.
I think they're getting better now, but certainly then they didn't.
They are getting better. But yeah, back then they really didn't have a lot. So I was just like, you know what? Let's see if we can get one. Why not? You know, we're not going anywhere. This is our home. Yeah. I applied and fingers crossed. We heard from you guys. We got the letter in the mail and it was fantastic.
So the application came in and it was for a legitimate wheelchair platform swing.
Yes.
And I remember the board discussion around that because there was the absolute like wholehearted yes, that we just wanted to like, this is exactly what we want to do. We want to create joy. We want to make a difference. This is going to make Austin happy. Mm-hmm. But then there was sort of the practical side, of which my husband was kind of one of them, because he's like, this is not just a swing that we can build. Like we need to, like this is going to involve concrete and this is going to involve digging. We have to do this right if we're going to do this. And I'm like, but it's just a yes. You know? So the board was, I don't want to say divided because everyone wanted to do it, but it was sort of the emotional versus the practical.
Yeah.
And, you know, we talked it through and we realized that we had a group of people, not necessarily just our board members, but friends, and we could reach out to people who would help us make this happen. I can remember some of those discussions like it was yesterday, because this was just one of those apps that we just knew if we could pull this off, it was going to be great. I remember reaching out to just our friends and, you know, our friend Chris Bennett, who he's an expert carpenter, but this was like going to be right up his alley. So he was who we brought. And I think we did it over Thanksgiving weekend.
Yes. It was right around Thanksgiving.
Yep, Serena was here with us.
Yep.
And then all the kids were home. So it was like two families just came out. And I looked through those pictures and it was great.
Yeah.
It was really, though, it was one of those where we had to make a real plan about it, though, because it was not just, a lot of our things are easier. You know, it's like you can buy this or we write the check and reimburse, or it's an instant feel good. This was sort of all right, how can we pull this off?
Yeah.
But I think that I had it sent to your house, right? And it just arrived in these, like it had to be like
giant
drop
boxes. Yes. Yep, I remember. I think you if I remember correctly, I think you emailed me and you're like, okay, there should be a shipment coming on this day at this time. And I was like, okay. And
in my mind,
prepared.
I was thinking I was just like, it's coming and then we'll come in a couple of days and build it.
Giant boxes. I don't remember if there was a forklift involved, but it was I was like, oh my goodness, what is happening? What is getting dropped off?
Hey, I wanted to take a break from our regular content to talk to you about one of our sponsors, Adirondack Trust and their insurance company, Amsure. I'm going to tell you a story. When Ethan was in elementary school, Adirondack Trust would come into the classroom and they would do a program about how you could open an account and how as a student you could open an account with $1. Ethan would come home and kind of talk about that, and we didn't really think about it again until he had his first paycheck from working. And he was like, I have to go to Adirondack Trust and open up an account. So we went in. I was like, Ethan, you should deposit your paycheck. And he very proudly said, no, I don't have to do my paycheck. I can open this account with $1. And that is exactly what he did. We walked in, we opened it. It was kind of a big day for us. And as we were getting ready to leave, the president of the bank actually came down, shook his hand, and said, thank you so much for your business, Mr. Strotter. It was such a great moment for him. It was such a great moment for me. It is just one of the many ways that Adirondack Trust goes above and beyond. When it became time for me to open an account for Jake's Help from Heaven, there was no other bank that I would consider. I went back to Adirondack Trust because they are the ones that go above and beyond, and they were there with us. They do all of our banking needs for Jake's, for Ethan, and for us. Visit AdirondackTrust.com and see how your money can go above and beyond. Member FDIC. We pulled it off somehow.
But I can just remember being like in the backyard and watching you guys. And it was just everybody all around. And it was just like the meeting of the minds. Like, okay, this is how we have to do it. This is how we're going to strategize. And it was fantastic because I wouldn't have been able to do it. I can tell you that.
It was such a great day, too, because I think Chris and Ellen's 3 kids were there and Ethan and Serena.
Yep.
They remember that day. Like, we still talk about that day with them. Like, because to them, that was just this kind of, holy cow, fun adventure, right? Like it was just something different. We didn't finish it that first day.
No. Can't even remember how many days it was. 1, 2,
and then
3.
I feel like there was like famous last words of mine that I was like, okay, I promise we just have like 45 minutes left. And Brian's like, why would you say that? And I was like, because it's not going to take, like, I just never think things are going to take as long. I just don't. I'm like, there's like nothing left. And he's like, it's going to take longer. I'm like, I can remember this like it was yesterday. So I'm sure you can too. Austin sitting on your back ramp, right? Like bundled up in his New York Giants jacket, just waiting.
Yep. We had him waiting patiently because you said it was going to take 45 minutes. So I went inside and I got him dressed.
I'm like, we're so close.
Got got him dressed, got his hat on, and he's sitting there just bundled all up, waiting. And I'm like, I promise it's going to be done very soon. But he was great.
Yeah, he
sat
was great.
out there
He was
and just watched.
I think it's like, I used to always say this with Jake too, right? Like, I think when you put them in front of something that is different than their norm, it's just like any kid. It stimulates them differently. And I think he kind of was like, what the hell is happening? Like,
yeah, you could just see him kind of like looking and like the eyes would roll and then he would like kind of side eye over at me. And I'm like, this is going to be your swing, And I think once he got on it is when he realized like, okay, this is what I have. This is great.
Oh, and he had such a great smile.
I felt terrible though. I did. I felt
not.
so bad. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're working so hard. I didn't realize it was going to be like this. Like you said, like I didn't realize it was going to take so many hours. And I was just like, no, I want this. Let's see if we can get it.
I like this story, though, because it's always at the heart of sort of what Jake's Help from Heaven does, right? Jake's Help from Heaven, it's a nonprofit foundation. We are dedicated to creating opportunities for those with disabilities to thrive. And this is exactly what that platform wheelchair did, right? It gave these chances that ordinarily would, like you said, would be hard to come by. Like he's either in a swing, like makeshift swing that you're trying to keep him safe but at home, or you're traveling all over trying to find one.
Yes.
And here, we have this opportunity to give this gift. And I say when we do these things too, and because I think of it as being Jake's mom, it's not just a gift for Austin. It's a gift for everybody in his life, right? Because like you did that for him, right? Like you gave that to him and then you get to see joy and you get to see happiness and you get to see your kid be a kid.
Yeah.
I always wanted Jake to have those same experiences that Ethan did. It came easier for Ethan, but it didn't mean I didn't want Jake to be able to just be a kid.
Right. Oh, for sure. Definitely changed our lives because, we were outside more. He was just happy. Anytime he was in that swing, he was just beaming and happy, and we could go out there whenever we wanted because it was right there in the backyard.
Right there. And if I remember correctly, you had some of the most amazing sunsets.
Yes.
Or still do, I guess.
I still do, yeah.
Oh, they were beautiful.
Yep. He would be out there any chance we got. And I think the winter was kind of mild that year, too. So we were actually out there quite a bit because, like you said, we got it Thanksgiving weekend. It was installed. So, we pretty much used it a lot in the wintertime and then, mostly March. Made a huge difference for him and for all of us.
How did you learn about Jake's?
I actually learned about it through work.
Okay.
So working at the preschool.
So we've had a few applicants recently.
Yes, you've had some of my former students on your website, and I'm like, oh, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I love it. But that's how I found out about it originally. And I was like, this could be something that would benefit Austin. So I looked it up and Googled it and read a little bit about it. And I was like, yeah, let's do this. Downloaded the application. Well, printed it out at that point.
Yep.
Mailed it
Now we're
in.
very fancy. You can do it right online.
Look at that. Nope, didn't have that pleasure.
No.
Yeah, and then you just have to wait. And it's like, oh, I wonder if they got it. Did they get it? Oh, man, I don't know. It just brought him such joy and such happiness. I also felt like it almost gave him like a sense of freedom, and just being able to experience what every other child can experience, because my sister can take my nephew to the park and put him on a swing and, go for a couple hours, or, you see other kids out playing and utilizing things, and it just wasn't that easy for him. So I think just having the swing there at home made it so much easier. And it was hard too, because I say back then, but you would see, there's an all-inclusive playground here, or, this place has handicap accessibility, and we'd load up the car and we'd drive and we'd go to these places, and he still wouldn't be able to do it. It just wouldn't be right for him.
That was, I think, one of the most heartbreaking things that I would experience with Jake, right? Because exactly that. You'd be like, oh, an inclusive playground opened up in Boston Spa. And I was like, okay, let's go. And I'd get Ethan and I'd get Jake. And I was like, finally, I can bring my boys to the playground. I get it. It certainly served some special needs, but not my boys.
Not at all. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because you would get there and, some of them, I think it was even the one that in Milton, I think I heard about, the new one. Well, not anymore new, but then.
But back then.
And it was mostly just accessible to get on it. It was the ramps and you could go up, but then once you got up there really wasn't anything for them to do. So it was just hard in that aspect. So I think just bringing it to him, kind of like a mini playground, so to speak, to him was fantastic. So
You kept it up for a while, didn't you?
So I kept it up for a while. I still have the frame up, and I have a regular bench swing on it that I sit on in the summer months. And we actually built a garden right there in that grassy area. So right in front of the tree, there's just kind of like Austin's memory garden, and the swing is part of it. I do still have the platform piece. It's in my shed. I've tried getting to donate it to places and stuff. I'm still trying. I still contact people every now and then. But
I love so much. I don't think I realized that you put like a regular swing on it. And I love that so much. That's awesome.
Yeah. I have just a regular swing on it. I think I got it from Wayfair. I don't know, with like a little cushion. And I sit out there and I read, or I listen to the wind chimes, and
that's awesome.
it just kind of brings me peace, and kind of like that he's there with me. You know, my sister's kid will come over and he loves to swing, so he'll sit on it and we'll all hang out, and it's just really nice.
So Austin, as people may have gathered from the way we're talking about him, is no longer with us. That wasn't that long after the swing, was it?
No, unfortunately not. And I felt terrible.
Oh, stop.
because of that. But so the swing was installed in November of 2016, and then Austin ended up passing away in April 2017. So he only had it for pretty much the winter months, and just as like it started to get warmer.
I remember I was in New York City.
Oh.
I was in New York City. I don't always remember all of this stuff, but I remember I was in New York City and I saw something on Facebook, and I think I texted you, and I was like, holy shit. Like, I've said this before on the podcast and just sort of in general, like the work that we do at Jake's Help from Heaven, the population that we work with, obviously it's very close to home for us, but this is just the population. It's the risk of the work we do is we come in contact with these amazing families who unfortunately often have the same outcome that we did. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, I love to think of that smile. And like I said, I feel like it was yesterday. Like, you know, I had to ask you how long it was because I can remember that smile from him. And for you, the gift you gave him for his last 4 months, right? Like, what a joyful, the gift you gave him every day, because you took such great care of him. And you found something that was going to make a difference for him, and you advocated and you got it, and we made it happen.
Because he was definitely happy. You know, right? Those 4 months that he had it, he was so happy. And I just knew that that's something that he would want, you know, without him even telling me he would want it, just because I know the reaction of how he would be at home inside with the little swing and stuff. But no, he definitely had happiness in the end. So
2017, so 6 years? Six and a half, a little bit?
Yeah.
So how are you 6 years later?
It's
a loaded question.
Yeah.
I never know how to answer it, so I don't know why I ask it. I'm like, it's depends on the moment, right?
Yeah, exactly. It depends on the day. It depends on the minute sometimes. It's just, I don't know. Some days I feel like I'm doing really, really good, and then like sometimes it'll just hit me, like, and then I'm just not.
No, and sometimes, at least I'm in this phase now a little bit where it's, you know, it's been a long time. It's been since 2010, so it's been a long time. Like, he's been gone 3 times as long as he was alive. More than that, right? Because he passed away when he was 4, and he's been gone 13 years. And like, something about that is just hard on my head.
It's
a little
hard to
bit. Yeah, like it's hard to wrap my head around. I don't know what to do with it. You know, I don't know. There's still, I don't want to say guilt, but there's life has gone on, you know, life has gone on. We've got Jake's, and it's doing really well, and we're working really hard. And, you know, we're doing it all in his memory and giving me a reason to talk about him. But life has just gone on. Like, Ethan's at college. He has a girlfriend. We're traveling. Well, we have empty nest syndrome, right? Like, we're keeping ourselves busy.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be this way, you know? And I guess, I don't want to say I feel guilty, but it makes me almost sadder in such a different way. Like, but I feel like I'm sadder lately, even though it's that much longer and it's a different kind of sadness, but it's just, life is so different.
Yeah.
You know,
I used to, in the beginning, always feel guilty anytime I would do something that would either like make me happy or bring me joy or take me out of it for a little bit, you know, because it's like, wait, I'm not supposed to feel this way, you know, so I would always have that guilt. And I still do every now and then, you know, it's like, I shouldn't be going out. You know, sometimes for me, it's just as simple as going to Starbucks and getting myself a cup of coffee, you know, like that's something that I'm going to do for myself. Getting my nails done. You know, there's just little simple things like that where I'm like, it's okay to treat myself every now and then. So like, yes, I'm going to do this. My newest thing that was really hard for me is my partner and I went to Myrtle Beach in April, and it happened to be the week of the date where Austin passed. He passed on April 11th. So we did that this past year, and it was really hard for me to do that because I felt like, no, I need to be home. I need to be home. I need to be at his graveside. And like, that's just what I do on April 11th every year for the past however many years. We just decided to just pack up and go away and leave it. And that was a huge thing for me because normally I just would not do that. I would have guilt. So I said yes, and we did it. And, I feel like wherever I am, I carry it with me. It took me a while as I'm sitting on the beach, just listening to the waves and it's quiet, to come to that conclusion. Like, you know what? Like, no, I'm not home or I'm not local, but like I needed this. And like, even though I'm not there and I'm not doing the things that I would typically be doing year after year on that date, it's still with me no matter where I am, whether I'm in North Carolina or back in Rensselaer. It's the heartache, the grief, like it's still with me. But that was huge. And I'm so glad I did it for myself. Like, we had a great time. And it was hard to have a good time, but...
Because it's almost like society sort of tells you, right? Like, you should have a good time. But no, I think that's a great example.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think, too, just with, like, my job. So I'm a preschool teacher. I work, with kids with special needs. Some similar to Austin, some not. But I get up every day and I'm going to do this because even though sometimes I'm around kids and, it does make me sad, like there's joy in it. They're funny. I love going there. I know that I make a difference to them and they make a difference to me, even though they may not know it. That's my yes.
And I think I've said it before, right? You make the decision every day. And I don't have to make the decision as deliberately as I used to. But like in those beginning days, it was like, okay, what are you going to do for yourself? What are you going to do to find happiness? And, and I was lucky in the early days where I would have friends show up with a cup of coffee and say, we're going for a walk,
Mm-hmm.
Get out, get fresh air. And, what do they say? Movement is medicine, right? So I started running. Like I was a little concerned that if I did not keep myself busy during the day, I would like hit the booze or do something bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that, because it's just dark. Finding those ways of just like, okay, I'm going to go for a run. And then that's where the whole cardinal thing happened because I was running tons of miles. And I remember coming home from some of my runs and I would be like, Brian, this cardinal's like stalking me. Like everywhere I turn, there's a freaking cardinal. And then I was kind of like, oh, it must be Jake. Mm-hmm. So then I was on this whole like cardinal kick for a while. I did not know at the time that it's a real thing.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea. Then all of a sudden people are like, cardinals are a thing. Google it. And I Googled it and I was like, oh, so A, it's really Jake.
Yeah.
But B, I didn't know. Like it just became very, like that to me became this thing that helped, to the point of finding those moments and finding them. There's also the importance of sometimes, and they're very few and far between now, but there are those days where it's just sucks. Mm-hmm. And I think you just lean into it sometimes, right? Like sometimes it's just about, I don't know, laying in bed, or sometimes it's just about crying and being sad and being moody. And I have those moments, and I often have them around his birthday. I have them around this time of year. I have learned to just be a part of it, because it's a full-time job to stay positive and to stay happy and to make the choices. And while they're less deliberate now, they are deliberate choices. It's a choice to not go down that dark road.
And it's so hard because in the beginning when Austin did first pass, like I just wanted to be left alone. I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want to talk about it. And it took me a while, probably at least like a couple months, if that. I can't even probably put a time frame on it. But it took me a while to just kind of be like, you know what, Crystal, like you need to not. Like you need to be able to just get up and get your routine going and get out of bed and be a nice human being to others.
Be a human again.
So it took me a while to get to that place because I've always been a positive person. I've always been upbeat and happy, and it knocked me down for a while after that. And it's hard to stay positive. And it is. It's almost like a full-time job. Like
right? It is. It's like you have to really lock in.
Yeah.
And I wonder if your situation was sort of similar too. Like I would hear people would say stuff. Dear friends of mine would be like it's like they thought that I was prepared for it because he was sick or something. And I'm always like, no, like we lived a life where we actually thought that Jake was going to be with us for a really long time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying he was going to live to be 90, but, we were certainly, our plans in our life was to make accommodations in our house, like figure out how to get an elevator once he got too heavy for me or Brian to carry him, get the right vehicle. Sometimes people will say like, oh, you guys travel too much. You live such a great life. We live a life a little bit of running away from our house. Like we live a little bit of that. And we live it a little bit in honor of Jake because we didn't do any of that when he was alive. And frankly, I wish I never traveled anywhere because I was home with him. You know what I mean? Like if I had to choose, I would certainly choose being home with him.
Yep, absolutely.
So some of that comes because it's a way that we kind of choose to honor him because like you said, once you figure out that he's with you, whether you're sitting at his grave or you're on vacation, it makes it a little easier. And it feels like, I don't know, sometimes I'm like, I'm showing him the world too. So everything's just more loaded when you have an experience like that. It's never sort of what it seems.
I agree.
Hey, I just wanted to take a minute from this episode and talk to you about Saratoga Casino Hotel. They have, as many of you know, there's Morton's, there's Vapor, there's the casino, there's the hotel. But what you might not know is that they take one day a year and they do this event that is called Make a Difference. They hold it as a luncheon, and on that one lunch, they give away $120,000. They pick 12 Capital Region charities, and they award each of them $10,000. It is unreal. It is so generous. From the nonprofit standpoint, as a beneficiary of this Make a Difference, what I love about it so much is that the organizations don't have to do anything. So many times organizations have to fill out so many forms, jump through hoops, do all of these things, and we gladly do it because we're looking for funding. But Saratoga Casino Hotel, they pick the charities and they just ask you to come to lunch. They treat you to a great lunch. You can bring your board, you can bring your donors, you can bring your family. Everyone gets this great lunch. And then they give you $10,000. It's unbelievable. It's so generous. Keep supporting them so they can keep supporting us. I hadn't had it in a while, but I feel like, and I don't know if it's that Ethan's gone to college. Like, I don't know if that's triggering things because I feel like when Ethan left for college, it wasn't just this, oh my God, my baby's going to college. It was also, wait, we were supposed to, like Jake was still supposed to be home. You know what I mean? Like it just made it seem, I don't know, even emptier. It raised some things that I didn't know were still there.
Something can trigger like that, I feel, and it's just.
And then you're there and dark, right? It goes dark. So we're coming up, I always call these like my dark days because December 8th will be his, oh my God, 13th year. Still like on those days, we have our cantina day and we do things we try to get out of town and we try to focus on other things.
Yeah.
But it starts about now. It starts on my dad's birthday, which is Monday, where I remember that year. Like, and for whatever reason, well, I know why, because on November 20th of 2008, he broke his femur. His bones were so fragile that he just in his sleep broke his femur. I remember that vividly. And then all it was my dad's birthday, so it just stands out. And then that Thanksgiving, and then, we were in Boston and all of the things that led up to it. Like I just can remember the days, and so around this time of year, I just it's not sadness, but I just get really locked in and kind of like bitchy, sort of,
Agreed. Yes, I also turn
like everyone pisses me off.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm like, and then I get mad at myself because I don't want to be like that, but
I feel like that's a natural way to deal with it. Like that's just a natural reaction and a natural feeling because I do the same thing, and for me, it's just the holidays, right?
Yeah.
Because Austin loved Christmas. Christmas was big for him. He loved the lights. He loved the music, just everything.
Well, it's just such a time of year that for our kids, it's so much stimulation, right?
Yes.
Like even your house has more stuff going on. Like everything is just kind of exactly what our kids need to,
Yes, what they love and they crave, right?
And it's like 6 weeks of just nonstop.
And so for me, I could just get so mad, Christmas is coming. And then I get into this place And, my partner is like Captain Christmas. I always like joke about it because I'm like, I don't want to decorate this year. I don't want to put up the tree, or, I just want to not do it, But no, it happens. And in the end, I am happy about it. But in the beginning, I put up such a fight, and I can be so mean.
No, I can too.
But
we don't have a lot of people that know what we feel.
Right.
And then sometimes people tell you and you, like, I just am like, even in the beginning, it would piss me off more. But now I'm like, no, you have no idea.
Yeah, you really don't know.
You just don't know.
Yeah. I'm not even going to try to explain it to you
just
because
stop
there's
talking.
no way. I'm good. Thanks. Until you've actually lived it or gone through it, I don't think there's a way to put into words how you feel inside.
It's funny because this is not the same at all, but I felt a little bit in the weeks after we dropped Ethan off at college. I had that like pit in my stomach, which it was not the same at all, but just that like hole in my heart a little bit, like trying to, and it's not the same, but it's as close as I've had to it. Just that like, it's like those moments, right, where life is different and it's never going to be the same. And this is obviously not the same. But I remember thinking like, I haven't felt this like, almost like you're going to throw up.
Yeah.
Like that's, I mean, it's like, I felt like after Jake died, I was on the verge of almost going to throw up for months and months. Like just, and I had it just for a couple of days with Ethan, but just that kind of, right? That feeling of just, it's hard to describe, but just like, oh.
It's almost like, oh, here we go again. Yeah. Like life is going to change. What's going to happen?
And once you've had that horrible change, right? Like the worst change, it's just like, I don't know. I was like, I think this is PTSD.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's a form of. Yeah, absolutely.
Crazy. This to me, I think was one of the very first applications that came in and deliveries and full cycles where I was like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. This is exactly it. Austin was similar to Jake. We have a handful of kids that we help that are like Jake. And then we have a lot that are very deserving of our help, but they're not quite like Jake. Mm-hmm. I don't know. There's the feeling of like, when your kid is always the sickest kid in the room, even when you're surrounded by sick kids.
Yeah.
There's an isolation, I think, with special needs kids. And then there's an even more isolation when your kid is that kid.
Yeah.
For me, when we were able to see this through, and I think it's why I advocated so hard for it, even though I knew it was going to be complicated, was because giving Austin a moment, like you've kind of described, but just giving him his playground that no one else would, you know, meant something, and we have a handful of kiddos that to me will just always ring a little bit more close to my heart because it's what I would have wanted for Jake. And it's what I would have given Jake if I could have. And that doesn't mean that some of the other kids that we're helping aren't also 100% like, you know what I mean? Like, like I love what we do for all of them, but there's those ones that just really stand out. And I think Austin was one of the first that to me was like, this is what I could have done for Jake, so we're doing it for Austin.
Aww. Putting that hard work into it, like for me, I was just like, wow. Like I knew there were good people out there, but like this is crazy. Like these guys are great. Like for me, I just thought you guys were literally miracle workers because you gave Austin something that, I mean, I could have given him, but he was just so joyful, and just to see that smile on his face anytime he used that swing was just the greatest gift that I could have had. And you guys put blood, sweat, maybe even some tears that I didn't see into it.
You swear words.
Swear words. I heard those.
I was like, you probably heard those.
Yeah. But I mean, it really made me feel like, wow, like these people are here doing this for my son. You know, they don't know him. They don't need to do this. It was just, I'm just very grateful for you guys, you know, and I always talk very highly of Jake's Help from Heaven. In my population and where I work, you know, I try to refer as many people as I can there, you know, but just because it does mean a lot to me.
You know, when we first were trying to figure out what Jake's Help from Heaven was going to be about, and, you know, I started thinking about it in the days that Jake passed because I had to do something, you know, mm-hmm. and I had given up my career. I had given up working. Like I had given up sort of everything to take care of him once he got sick. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what was going to happen without him. You know, I knew I had to stick around and be a good mom for Ethan, but I wasn't sure how to fill fill that void. And it was in those days that we kind of came up with this idea, and we came up with the name, and we had this sort of mission. And it wasn't until we started approving the grants and kind of figuring out what our model was like when we realized that it wasn't just about ordering something and buying something for someone. It was about the whole process. And you touched on it when you said, yes, I could have given him this. But imagine that, right? Like if you had to save the money, pay for it, get the shipment, find someone to build it. On top of taking care, I don't think people always understand it's 24/7 care. Even when your child's at school, you're kind of on edge. What if something happens?
Yep.
Even when they're sleeping, they get an ear infection. Well, for Austin or Jake, an ear infection could send you right down the road. Everything is so hard. So part of what we wanted to do, and Brian really kind of in those early days was like, well, I'm going to build it, because what good is it if we don't build it for them? We want to, otherwise you're giving them this gift, but you're then giving them the burden of having to build it or having to find the time to set it up.
And you guys felt like family for the few days.
I feel like we connected right away. I was like, I have a new best friend.
I was like, oh, this girl's great. Okay, we're going to get along fantastic. Which is good because you were there for a long time.
I basically moved in. Yeah. We may have reached the portion where you get to ask me anything.
Oh, boy. Well, let's start light.
All right, let's do it.
What is your go-to, let's say, fast food?
That's an interesting, I don't eat a ton of fast food. That's a very boring answer, Heather.
Oh, man.
I know, totally boring.
For some reason, I kind of figured that was going to be the answer, too. No.
I like a good, Five Guys burger or a Five Guys hot dog even.
I love their hot dogs.
Their hot dogs are delicious on the grill with grilled jalapeno and grilled onion.
See, now jalapeno I can leave. Onions, yes.
I don't do it a lot, but that's always a good go-to. I've never had Chick-fil-A. I like a good greasy pizza. I like a sloppy, greasy, foldable piece of pizza.
Yep.
I'll take that every now and again.
Toppings or no toppings?
I often will like just cheese.
I feel like for a greasy
foldable,
like a greasy
it has foldable. To be
just cheese.
Yep.
So I do want to know, though, how far or how long after Jake passed did you know you wanted to do Jake's Help for Heaven?
So literally days.
Really?
I remember being in the car and just being like, we have to do something. And Brian being like, okay, do what? And I was like, we have to help kids like Jake. Just manic.
Immediate.
Manic.
Oh, wow.
No, we have to. So he passed December 8th. We were incorporated as a 501c3 March 17th.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
I was like, I need an attorney. I found an attorney. She helped us out. She was really gifted at that was her thing. She could get nonprofits certified. I'd been hearing stories of nonprofits that took years to get their certification. Yeah. We got it on St. Patrick's Day.
Wow.
I went promptly to the parting glass and had a beer.
As you should.
As I should.
Yes.
So we just knew, and we reached out to an accountant and said, how do we get this set up? And I remember his advice to us was, if you want to be taken seriously and you want to do this, you cannot just invite your friends and family to be on your board. You have to be thoughtful about your board, and you have to ask people that each have a different role, and you have to sort of be able to explain that. And Brian and I took that very seriously. Mm-hmm. And we asked people who we kind of thought each filled a particular pocket. Or had a little area of expertise that they could bring to it. And we still have some of our original board members. I'm trying to think how many. As we invite people to join the board, we still do that. We don't just invite our besties, right? Or we invite people who are going to add something to the meetings and contribute to the decisions. We knew early on, and I think we always felt kind of fortunate that when we needed to travel to Boston, we had means, we were able to do it. And I remember just during that 117-day hospital stay, at one point, Jake had a roommate. I remember him so vividly because his parents, who were lovely, lovely people, but they both worked and they couldn't get there. And this poor little boy was sometimes just, days without a visitor. I was just brokenhearted for the family because I knew that we were going through something horrible, but we were, Brian didn't work the entire time and still had his job when he came back. We were fortunate that we could handle what was thrown to us with comfort. I wanted everyone to be able to sit with their kid if they was sick at the hospital. Yeah. I wanted to help. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, gosh.
It was so great to have you.
Yes.
I feel like we had a really nice walk down memory lane.
Yes, I was very happy to accept your invite and coming. So thank you.
Thank you. So thank you for listening to that episode. I loved the conversation with Crystal and catching up and talking about Austin. And I love when she shares how she still uses the swing in the area where it was as this place where she connects with Austin and where she reflects. And I think about how important that is for moms who've had this loss, because you need a place where you can feel close. And I know I have my places. I'm just so grateful that I have this connection with her. And I'm also grateful that Jake's Help from Heaven was not only able to provide something for her son, but for her too. Our next episode is a little bit different. We are not interviewing someone who is immediately connected to Jake or part of the Jake's Help from Heaven family. We are interviewing Jillian Benfield. She is an author. She wrote the book, The Gift of the Unexpected. She's also a former newscaster. And we talk a lot about the moment when your life changes, the moment when you had a before and an after. And we sort of share stories about where our lives intersect and what we do with the things that cause us to change. One of the things that we connected about was advocacy and how committed we are to making change. I think you'll really enjoy the conversation. I hope you'll stay tuned and listen. So I want to take a break for a minute from our regularly scheduled content, and I want to talk about another show on the Bright Sided Network. It is called Grab Life by the Reins. It is the story of these two celebrity horse trainers, but let me tell you, it is not what you think it's going to be. It is these stories of adventure and misadventures, I should actually say. And if you are someone who's got that sense of humor that might be a little raunchy, it is hilarious. The episode I listened to was about skinny dipping, but it resulted in a marriage proposal. So I'll leave you with that. It was hilarious. These episodes are somewhere between like 15 and like 22 minutes long. So you can just kind of listen quickly. It can lighten your day. It is hilarious. Highly recommend.